Hey guys, welcome back to the Midnight Movie. Before we get started, I would like to humbly ask if you wouldn't mind liking, subscribing, and sharing this video if you enjoy it, or any videos on the channel that you've enjoyed. We're competing with the algorithm, and we're trying really hard to build the channel and build a community of people who will love film as much as we do. Thanks for that. Your Midnight Movie this week is something a film I don't think I've seen since maybe it first came out, or since I first rented it as a kid. Fire in the Sky from 1993. This might be one of the most underrated UFO films ever. I watch a lot of videos where they're talking about the top 10 or the top 5 sci-fi or UFO movies, and I haven't seen this one pop up a lot, and that really surprised me, especially after watching this movie just a couple nights ago. And again, I remember when this movie came out. I remember renting it as a kid, and just it completely vanished from my memory, basically from that point on, which is too bad because it plays against audience expectation, but also gives you everything you want. It doesn't give up the mystery, it only builds on it. It is beautifully shot. The cast is excellent. And yeah, if whether you are a UFO skeptic or a UFO believer, Fire in the Sky, if you haven't seen it, make time to watch it. And if you haven't seen it in years, rewatch it. This was so much fun to rewatch. I was really surprised at how much of so many scenes stuck with me uh, after so many, frankly, decades of not having seen it. It stars D.B. Sweeney, who's a guy who was sort of all over film, I feel like, in the 90s. I thought he had disappeared. I decided to Google him. He's still pretty active, has done a lot of voiceover and other things. He's just not as camera facing as he used to be. But he plays Travis Walton. And again, Fire in the Sky is based on one of the most public, well documented, and I guess believable, if you can say that, UFO close encounter stories ever. Travis Walton was a logger in 1975. He and his group of buddies, they were all loggers. They had been working all day, and there's a difference between Travis Walton's story, and there are a few things that were changed in the movie. But Walton's story is essentially that he and his buddies, they're young men in 1975. They're cutting trees, they're doing logging, they're doing all this, and they're kind of wired after a shift. And so they're walking through the forest and they see a light, which they think is a forest fire, but there's no smoke. They go to investigate it, and according to Walton, they see this massive light and a craft, and a bolt of light shoots out of it, hits Travis, and it scares the hell out of the guys. They think that Travis is dead, and some want to go and check on him. Others like, we've got to get out of here. According to the movie, Mike, his best friend, played by Robert Patrick, who you may know as the T-1000 in Terminator 2, decides to take his friends out of there and then goes back to find him. Travis is gone, as is the craft. And over the course of 7 days, the local sheriff and I believe some type of state investigator are questioning Mike and the boys as to what the hell happened out in the forest. And you could see these guys, after, the movie basically opens with them driving like bats out of hell down a country road and into a diner, and just sort of walking stunned into said diner to have some drinks and try to calm down from this incredible experience they've had. And that's where it starts. An investigation ensues over the course of 7 days. Where the hell is Travis? Hey, how well did you guys know him? Hey, you had a problem with him. Why was that? Okay, where were you? Da-da-da. Some of these guys didn't quite like Travis. Some did. Mike is his best friend. You've got the whole town talking about, hey, maybe they killed him. Like, what exactly is going on? You see the pressure start to clamp down on Mike and the fellas. And, not just the pressure, if it was just the pressure on them, they could deal with people maybe talking behind their backs because they know the truth. The problem is they've all got girlfriends, they've got wives, they've got kids. That pressure starts to eat away at your family, oof, now it's a different story. Now, your wife is saying, you can't just let people run around town saying these horrible things. And, there's a real deep human drama that these people have to deal with. And I really appreciate that about this movie, in that it is as much about what happened to Travis and the UFO scenes and parts of the film as it is what it must be like to encounter something that incredible. And I feel like that isn't as well captured in most UFO movies. I think Fire in the Sky and Close Encounters of the Third Kind by Spielberg are the two movies that come up for me where it's not all about flying saucers. It's not all about the extraterrestrial beings. It's about, how do you go back to your real life when you've just seen your best friend shot with a laser and possibly abducted? How do you go back to work and just get up and just have coffee? And it really illustrates the psychological impact that something like that would have on somebody. And of course, this is all based on a true story. All of these men passed lie detectors. They've all kept their story since it happened. It's really interesting stuff, because usually when people, and there's plenty of people that are UFO, they're liars, or the people are just out for attention. Those stories change and they get more and more fantastic over time. Travis Walton and his crew, their stories haven't changed in 50 years. Much like Bob Lazar. There's a really great Bob Lazar, Area 51, and something else, a great documentary. He's another one whose story hasn't really changed much in 30, 35 years. And that's all put into the film. And again, Robert Patrick, D.B. Sweeney, they're so real, believable, three-dimensional men. You really empathize for these guys. These guys would just have lived a life, built families, and gone on, and that would have been that. And you see the strain it puts on, talk about Robert Patrick seeing his friend taken away, and the pressure on that. Well, 7 days later, Travis shows up, just walking, kind of bruised up, looking kind of gray, just waltzes back into town. So everybody's prayers have been answered, but he's kind of despondent. Obviously, he's traumatized from this experience that he's had. It's one thing to be the people that saw this happen. Imagine being the guy that it happened to. Again, we're assuming that this indeed happened. And it's, again, D.B. Sweeney's performance is as a sort of shell-shocked guy coming back from this and slowly trying to integrate himself back into real life. It's so brilliantly acted. It's so brilliantly directed. And then when we do get, once DB, as Travis comes back into town, there's tons of questions. People are swarming him. Obviously the newspapers, news channels want to talk to him. The sheriff and the investigator want to talk to him. The wife's like, you guys need to back off. We need to, get him to the hospital, clean him up, and it's from that point on that we start to see, in little glimpses and shards, in Travis's memory, sort of flashbacks of what happened. Whew, it's so good. The flashbacks to him being in the craft, him waking up where he wakes up. I don't want to give too much away, but the craft itself, how they design, how the set people, the designers built this thing. Again, it's not shiny, it's not clean, it's not like something that's super advanced. It looks organic, but half of it kind of looks burnt out and half dead. But then there's like a whole other part of it that seems more alive, where Travis sort of wakes up in sort of like this membrane. The aliens themselves are not just sort of grays with the big eyes. They have sort of an explanation for that. We always hear these stories and see these videos about, the grays with their massive black eyes and their massive craniums and their tiny little bodies and so forth. The movie has an answer for that, and it's really brilliant, so I'm not going to spoil it for you. But Travis's interactions with these beings and just being, I mean, I can't imagine just the sheer terror that he must have had. Well, I mean, in Travis's book, in his interviews, it wasn't as scary. It was more disorienting and almost sort of dreamlike. In the movie, obviously they're playing up a bit more of the disorientation, but the fear of it. It's pretty scary, uh, and it absolutely works. But even if it wasn't scary, that would have to be crazy to be interacting with. You don't know what these beings are. You don't know if you're hallucinating. You don't know if you've been drugged. You don't know what it is, and it's so well done. It is a movie that is some of the first early CGI is used in this movie, and you can't even tell. It has worked so seamlessly into the brilliant, brilliant, brilliant practical effects of the ship, of the ship over and above, when they first encounter it, it kind of looking like it's sort of like breathing. It's almost like the bottom of it looks like cracked, hot asphalt, and then the lights coming out of it. Then the inside, and as Travis sort of floats through it and is trying to figure out where the hell he is, and it's so good. And I was surprised that it isn't, at least initially, did not do so well. I think people maybe wanted the mega light show that occurs in Close Encounters. And if you go back and watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Spielberg, 77, it's not all that. You have, it's almost, he plays very disciplined with the craft with the UFOs like he did with the shark in Jaws. And you get glimpses and you get some encounters, and it's not until you get to the end where it's sort of like the big coup de grace there at the end, which is incredible. This movie is as disciplined as that film, and it doesn't try to lean on, oh, wow, we're watching this ship fly around and we're watching these aliens. There's some of that, but it's just enough to really wet your whistle and to get your imagination going and to just suck you in. But it doesn't overplay that card at all. And again, that's really, I think, part of what's brilliant about this movie. It also does not conclude, and I won't spoil the ending. How it concludes is also, I think, plays against audience expectation, but I think is as satisfying as what I guess people would want in some type of UFO sci-fi blowout. I'm glad they didn't do that. I love the ending. I loved the ending when I was a kid. I loved the ending watching it recently, and I think it took a lot of guts for the director, for the writers to do what they did. One, with the restraint of it not just being all about sci-fi this and sci-fi that, and flying saucers and aliens, but the real human drama of people being involved in something that they really can't explain, something that you've only read about in stories. It makes it feel so much more real when you're sort of having to live in the day-to-day of these guys' lives, in their families' lives. People not believing them, people, accusing them of terrible things, and then it sort of playing that whole sort of micro drama of the lives, that playing out, and eventually concluding under this sort of much larger cosmic macro level epic. I love that type of stuff. And this movie does it beautifully. If you want something, if you're a UFO person or you're not, you just want to watch a great damn movie, that doesn't star the same 10 goddamn people like everything seems to be these days, that is a really original script that does not unfold the way you expected. If you want to actually be impressed by a movie, I cannot more highly recommend Fire in the Sky from 1993. And then when you're done with that, go down the rabbit hole like I did and watch a bunch of interviews with Travis Walton. I think it's really interesting, and it's one hell of a story if it's not true. But yeah, let me know what you think. Was Fire in the Sky an underrated gem like I think it is, or do you feel differently? Let me know in the comments below. And again, if you've enjoyed this video, please hit like, please subscribe, and share, and I'll see yous in the next one.